The wedding that ended in handcuffs. You know, they say revenge is a dish best served cold. But let me tell you something, dear friends. At 70 years old, I've learned that sometimes revenge serves itself, and all you have to do is make one phone call and watch the dominoes fall. But before I share what happened at my son's wedding, the day that 400 guests will never forget, please hit that like button if you enjoy stories about karma coming back around. And subscribe to hear more true stories from my 7 decades on this earth. Oh, and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from. I love knowing I've got friends all around the world. Now let me take you back to that Saturday in June. The day was supposed to be perfect. The kind of perfect you see in magazines, with white roses everywhere, champagne towers, and a string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon as guests arrived at the Rosewood estate. My son Robert was marrying Lisa Chan, a woman I'd had, let's call them, reservations about from the moment they got engaged. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning because you need to understand the whole picture to appreciate what happened. I'm Kathy Morrison, 70 years young, widow of 15 years, and mother to one son, Robert. My late husband James and I built a successful commercial real estate business from nothing. We started with one small property in 1978 and built an empire. When James passed, he left everything in a trust, half for Robert and half that I controlled until my death. We're talking about properties worth north of $40 million. Robert met Lisa at some tech conference in San Francisco. She was 10 years younger than him, worked in marketing, and came from what she described as humble beginnings. Her father Charles ran a small auto repair shop, and her mother had passed when Lisa was young. I felt for her, I really did. I know what it's like to build something from nothing. But from our very first dinner together, something felt off. The way she looked at our house, calculating. The way she asked pointed questions about the trust, about the properties, about Robert's inheritance. The way she'd smile at me with her mouth but not her eyes. I tried to talk to Robert about it. 6 months into their relationship, I sat him down in my kitchen. The same kitchen where I bandaged his scraped knees and helped him with homework. And I gently expressed my concerns. "Mom," he said, and I could see he was already pulling away from me, "you're just not used to sharing me. Lisa loves me for me, not for the money." That stung. Because I'd never been the type of mother who couldn't let go. I'd encouraged him to study abroad. I'd supported him when he wanted to start his own consulting firm, instead of joining the family business. I'd been nothing but supportive of every woman he dated before Lisa. But this was different, and a mother knows. The engagement came 8 months later. No asking for my blessing, just a Facebook announcement that I found out about from my book club friend Margaret. When I called Robert, he was defensive. "We're adults, Mom. We don't need permission." "I'm not talking about permission, sweetheart. I'm talking about respect." That conversation ended with him hanging up on me. It was the first time in 42 years my son had hung up on me. The wedding planning was a nightmare. Lisa wanted everything lavish, orchids flown in from Thailand, a 10-tier cake, a designer dress that cost more than my first car. Robert was paying for most of it, sure, but I could see the stress in his eyes every time we talked about the budget. I offered to help. I wanted to contribute, to be part of this milestone despite my reservations. Lisa accepted my offer with that same smile, mouth yes, eyes calculating. "How generous, Kathy," she said. We were at a wedding venue tasting, and she'd insisted I come. I'm sure Robert appreciates having such a involved mother. The way she said involved made it sound like an insult. I contributed $25,000 toward the wedding. I helped address invitations. I attended dress fittings even though Lisa made it clear my opinions weren't wanted. I did everything a mother of the groom should do, swallowing my pride and my concerns, because I loved my son. The warning signs kept coming. Lisa's father Charles was a piece of work, loud, crude, and with opinions about everything. At the rehearsal dinner, he got drunk and started talking about how his daughter had really landed a big fish, and how the Morrison money would finally put the Chun family on the map. I watched Robert's face fall, but he said nothing. Lisa laughed it off. "Daddy's just excited. Don't mind him." But I minded. I minded a lot. The real trouble started the morning of the wedding. I arrived at the bridal suite at the Rosewood estate to drop off a gift. A vintage pearl necklace that had belonged to my mother. Something borrowed, something old. Peace offering, really. A way of saying you're joining our family and I'm trying. I knocked on the door of the suite. Lisa's maid of honor opened it, and I could immediately feel the tension in the room. Lisa was standing in her dress. It was beautiful, I'll give her that, and she was on the phone. I don't care what the trust says, she was hissing into the phone. Once we're married, there are ways to challenge it. My lawyer says. She stopped when she saw me. The room went silent. Her bridesmaids, 6 women I'd never met before that week, all stared at me like I'd walked in on a bank robbery. Kathy, Lisa said, recovering with that practiced smile. We weren't expecting you. I can see that, I said quietly. I held out the jewelry box. I brought you something. It was my mother's. She took it without looking at it. How sweet. You can set it on the table. Not thank you. Not that so thoughtful. Just a dismissal. I should have left then. But something made me stay. Made me say what I've been holding back for months. Lisa, can I speak with you privately for just a moment? Her jaw tightened. Kathy, I'm kind of busy getting ready to marry your son. I know. This will just take a minute. She sighed dramatically and gestured to her bridesmaids. Give us the room. When they left, I tried to be gentle. I really did. I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, I began. But I want you to know that I'm trying. I want Robert to be happy. I want you both to be happy. Is there a but coming? She asked, arms crossed. But I couldn't help overhearing your phone conversation just now. And I need to be clear about something. The trust my husband set up is ironclad. It was designed to protect Robert and to ensure the family legacy continues. Whatever your lawyer is telling you. That's when her face changed. The mask dropped completely. You've been against me from day one, she spat. Robert told me you'd try something like this. On my wedding day. Really? You're so threatened by me that you come in here with your lectures and your dead husband's money. Lisa, that's not what I. Get out. I think we should talk about this. And that's when it happened. She lunged forward, grabbed a handful of my hair. My carefully styled, silver hair that I'd spent 2 hours at the salon on, and yanked. Hard. I stumbled backward, shock and pain radiating through my scalp. Before I could react, the door burst open. Charles, Lisa's father, had apparently been listening outside. His face was red, veins bulging in his neck. You couldn't just stay in your lane, could you, you old witch? He roared, getting right in my face. I could smell the whiskey on his breath at 10 in the morning. My daughter is about to become a Morrison, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're just a bitter old woman who can't stand that someone younger and prettier is taking your place. He was screaming. Actually screaming, inches from my face, his spit hitting my cheek. I stood there, shaking, my hair disheveled, my dignity in tatters. And then Robert walked in. My son. My baby. The boy I'd rocked to sleep, the teenager I'd taught to drive, the man I'd supported through every up and down of his life. He took in the scene, me with my hair messed up, tears in my eyes, his father-in-law-to-be screaming, his bride-to-be standing there with her arms crossed. What's going on? He asked. This was my moment. My moment to tell him everything, to make him see what I'd been seeing all along. But before I could speak, Lisa burst into tears. Your mother came in here and attacked me, Robert. On my wedding day. She grabbed my dress and started yelling about the trust and how I'm not good enough for you. I felt like I'd been slapped. That's not. She's lying. Charles jumped in. I heard everything. Your mother is trying to sabotage this wedding because she's a controlling, manipulative. Robert held up his hand. He looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Doubt. Actual doubt about his own mother. Mom, is this true? No, Robert. She grabbed my hair and Charles was screaming in my. Of course she'd say that, Lisa sobbed. She's been against us from the beginning. Ask anyone. Ask the bridesmaids. And like clockwork, the bridesmaids filed back in, all nodding, all backing up Lisa's story. A well-rehearsed performance. Robert's face hardened. Mom, I think you should go. We'll talk about this later. Robert, please. Mom, go. I left that bridal suite with my heart broken. I sat in my car in the parking lot, shaking, crying, trying to fix my hair in the rearview mirror. I was 70 years old. And I'd just been assaulted and then gaslit by the woman my son was about to marry. The ceremony was in 2 hours. I could leave. I could drive home, pack a bag and disappear for a while. Let them have their wedding. Let Robert make his mistake. But then I thought about James. About what he'd say if he could see this. About the business we'd built. the legacy we'd created, the trust we'd set up specifically to protect our son from people who wanted to take advantage of him. And I got angry. Not the hot, explosive anger of youth. The cold, calculated anger of a 70-year-old woman who'd spent 50 years navigating business deals and legal documents and difficult people. I pulled out my phone and made one call. Just one. Marcus. It's Kathy Morrison. I need you to do something for me, and I need it done in the next 2 hours. Marcus Chun, no relation to Lisa ironically, was our family attorney. He'd handled James's estate, set up the trust, and had been our legal counsel for 30 years. He was also one of the most thorough, meticulous lawyers I'd ever known. I told him everything. The conversation I'd overheard. The assault. The lies. And then I asked him to do something I'd been resisting for months. Run a complete background check on Lisa Chan and her father Charles. I should have done this earlier, I told him. But I wanted to trust my son's judgment. I wanted to be wrong about her. I'll call you back in 90 minutes, Marcus said. I fixed my makeup. I fixed my hair. I put on the mother of the groom dress I'd bought, a lovely lavender silk that Lisa had dismissed as trying too hard. And I walked into that wedding venue with my head high. 400 guests filled the estate's lawn. White chairs set up in perfect rows. That string quartet playing. Flowers everywhere. I took my seat in the front row, and people kept asking if I was okay. I'm perfect, I said with a smile. Robert wouldn't look at me. He stood at the altar, fidgeting with his cufflinks, and when I tried to catch his eye, he looked away. The ceremony began. Lisa came down the aisle on her father's arm, and I'll admit, she looked stunning. The whole thing was like a fairy tale. Right up until the moment the officiant asked, if anyone has any reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Call me. Now. I slipped out of my seat as quietly as I could and walked to the back of the seating area. Guests turned to look, but I didn't care. Talk to me, I whispered into the phone. What Marcus told me in the next 3 minutes made my blood run cold. Lisa Chun wasn't who she said she was. Her real name was Elizabeth Chenko, and she'd been married twice before, both times to wealthy older men, both marriages ending in divorces where she'd walked away with substantial settlements. The second husband had tried to prosecute her for fraud, but the case had been dropped when he died of a heart attack before trial. Her father Charles? 3 DUIs, 2 arrests for assault, and a string of failed businesses that had all ended in bankruptcy and lawsuits from investors. But here's the kicker, and Marcus's voice was shaking when he told me this part. Lisa and Charles had been working with a man named Viktor Sokolov, a known con artist who specialized in long game con, setting up young women with wealthy marks, getting them to the altar, and then using various legal and illegal methods to access the wealth. Marcus had found emails, plans, discussions about the trust, and how to leverage Robert's emotional dependency to gain control of it. Kathy, this is serious. This isn't just a gold digger. This is organized fraud. I'm sending everything to your phone now, and I've already contacted the police. There's enough here for charges, identity fraud, conspiracy to commit theft by deception. They're on their way. I stood there, phone in my hand, watching my son at the altar with a woman who was planning to systematically steal his inheritance and break his heart. The officiant had continued with the ceremony. They were at the vows now. I walked back to my seat. I sat down. And I waited. Lisa was in the middle of saying I do when the police cars pulled up. At first, people thought they were part of the venue's security. But then 4 officers walked onto the lawn, and the ceremony ground to a halt. Lisa Chun, also known as Elizabeth Chenko? One officer called out. The look on her face, I'll never forget it. Pure panic followed quickly by rage. She looked right at me and she knew. This is a mistake, she said, her voice rising. This is my wedding. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of fraud and identity theft. The lawn erupted in chaos. Guests were standing, phones out, filming everything. Charles tried to run and was tackled by 2 officers. Lisa screamed, actually screamed, accusing me of ruining her life, of being a vindictive old hag, of lies and manipulation. Robert stood there, frozen, watching his bride being read her Miranda rights. And then he started clapping. My son, my baby, stood at that altar in his tuxedo and started a slow clap, like this was all a show. Like his mother's vindication and his bride's arrest were entertainment. That's when I knew how deep the manipulation had gone. She'd gotten so far into his head that even seeing her arrested, he couldn't process it. His brain had chosen to treat it as surreal theater rather than face the reality. I walked up to the altar as they led Lisa away in handcuffs. Her father was already in a police car screaming obscenities. "Robert," I said softly. He stopped clapping. He looked at me with eyes that were completely lost. "She loved me," he whispered. "No, sweetheart. She didn't." And then finally my 42-year-old son broke down crying in my arms in front of 400 people, while his arrested bride screamed his name from a police car. The aftermath was messy. The media got hold of it. "Tech consultant's wedding ends in fraud arrest" was the headline in the local paper. The story went viral for a few days. 400 guests had the story of a lifetime. Marcus earned every penny of his retainer, coordinating with the police and prosecutors. It turned out Lisa and her father had done this to 3 other families before us. They'd gotten better each time, more sophisticated. If we'd waited even a month after the wedding, they would have had access to enough information, and Robert would have been so emotionally invested that untangling it all would have been nearly impossible. Robert moved back home for a while. We didn't talk much at first. He was embarrassed, heartbroken, and angry at Lisa, at himself, and yes, a little bit at me for being right. But slowly, over dinners and long evening talks on the porch, he came back to himself. The real Robert, not the version Lisa had been creating. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said one night about 3 months after the wedding. "That wasn't. I should have listened to you. You loved her. Or who you thought she was. That's not something to apologize for. She grabbed your hair, Mom. Her dad screamed in your face. And I took her side. You were being manipulated by a professional con artist. She was good at what she did." He smiled sadly. "You called the lawyer." "One call and the whole thing came crashing down." "One call," I agreed. "But Robert, I need you to understand something. I didn't do it because I wanted to be right. I did it because I love you. Because protecting you is my job, whether you're 4 or 42. He hugged me then, and it felt like getting my son back. Lisa took a plea deal and got 3 years. Charles got 5 because of his criminal record. Viktor Sokolov, the man behind it all, is still out there somewhere, probably setting up another con. Robert's doing better now. He's in therapy, working through the trust issues and the trauma of being targeted like that. He's dating again carefully, and yes, he runs potential partners by me now, though he doesn't need to. As for me, I'm still here, still managing the properties, still having my book club meetings with Margaret and the ladies. They made me tell the story so many times I finally recorded it, which is how you're hearing it now. So there you have it, friends. The day 400 people watched my son's bride get arrested at the altar. The day one phone call brought down a conspiracy. The day a 70-year-old widow proved that you don't mess with a mother's love for her child. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe for more true stories from my 7 decades on this earth. And drop a comment telling me where you're listening from, and whether you've ever had to deal with a difficult in-law or a family situation that seemed impossible. Remember, friends, sometimes revenge isn't about being cruel. Sometimes it's just about making one phone call and letting the truth do what it does best: come to light. Until next time, this is Kathy Morrison reminding you that age is just a number, but wisdom is earned through years of living. And sometimes that wisdom is worth more than anything money can buy. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.